All right, well, I'm gonna try to make this a quick video. It'll be hard because I'm kind of frustrated right now. So, Masterbuilt sent me a new controller because of the issues I was having with my smoker. And I installed the new controller, but it wouldn't connect to my cell phone. Their app is not great, and a lot of people have had problems with it. I tried a bunch of different stuff with my home network, creating new networks with shorter names, because one of the really dumb things about the initial firmware on these machines was it wouldn't connect to Wi-Fi if your combined network ID and password were like too long. And I mean, it was like 15 characters. So I don't know what that was about, but I tried building a new network on my home Wi-Fi and all that stuff. Nothing worked. So I went back to the old controller because I've never thought that the controller was actually the problem with the temperature stuff I was having with the smoker. I always thought it was the probe. And the reason why is the main issue is when it rained, the temperatures just went nuts, right? They really collapsed. And that typically is not a controller issue. That's going to be water is touching something and creating an issue, right? And my guess the whole time was that the probe likely had a flaw in the installation or something like that where it was allowing water to touch those lines. And most probes on smokers and stuff like that, they're usually like an NTC thermistor or a thermocouple or something. And so anyway, all that said, I've always suspected it was the probe. Going back now to the old controller, I'm almost certain that it's the probe because now the thing is totally unusable. And what I mean by that is whenever I start trying to use the smoker and the temperature starts climbing, the probe all of a sudden just collapses its readings. And so I had a session where basically the internal temperature was probably 350, 400 degrees, and the probe thinks it's freezing inside. And so the smoker now will basically never shut off. Once it starts heating up, because the probe reads too low all the time, it never shuts off. It's constantly trying to increase the heat to achieve the target temperature. And this has made the smoker just totally useless because it now just never shuts off. And I've tried a couple different smokes thinking maybe I had a bad contact with the probe and resetting stuff, and it looks okay at first, and temperatures start climbing as normal. And then once it heats up, I think something, again, has a flaw in the probe lines, and at higher temperatures, something's either making contact or losing contact, and the thing just fails. So been going back and forth with Masterbuilt customer service, and they don't have these probes. They're out. And they're not just out, they're out until June. So here we are in March, and they're telling me they can't get me another probe until June. 2.5 months, I'm not going to be able to use my brand new smoker that I paid $1,600 for. There's no refunds, there's no exchanges. That's all got to be handled through the retailer, and well, I'm outside of that date because I've been dealing with Masterbuilt customer support, and that's wasted weeks now. And so I'm at the point where I'm just kind of frustrated and done with Masterbuilt. There's nothing I can do. Like, I'm stuck with the machine now, and I've got, again, this smoker that's going to be sitting here throughout the entirety of basically spring and early summer because I don't have a probe that works. I also asked if they would just tell me what type of probe I need to get. Like, if it's an NTC thermistor, those are usually specified with a base resistance value and what's called a B value that specifies what type of exponential curve they follow and stuff. Nope, they won't tell me because they don't recommend that anybody modifies their machine. They're okay with me having a smoker that doesn't work. They actually, they offered me accessories, and I'm like, well, what am I going to use the accessories with? I don't have a smoker that works. Like, they're just, I don't know. So the customer service has not been great. I'm getting the vibe that Masterbuilt is not heavily involved with the electronics side. And I know that that's a pretty strong statement, but I've actually found the Asian manufacturer of their electronics. It's out of Hong Kong. That company also makes other smoker controllers. And I think they've basically just completely outsourced this stuff. I'm also curious whether or not they even develop their app because, again, some of the stuff that you see with the way their electronics are made and the way their app works leads me to believe that whoever's developing that really, I don't want to say they don't know what they're doing, but they've made some choices that are very odd. And again, I don't want to get into the details right now, but look at the app. The biggest thing to me that says whoever built that app doesn't have a great handle on what's supposed to happen is, again, the original firmware had a limit of 15 characters on the combined SSID and password, which is really ridiculous. That's a limit that, again, anybody that tests this software runs into that problem. It was a widely noticed problem. They have updated the firmware since then, so that's not supposed to be a problem, but there's just so many networking issues that you see people mentioning online that, again, these are problems that if you actually had a dedicated developer, this stuff would be resolved quite quickly. And this all screams to me probably outsourced, and they're probably waiting on somebody to get to this rather than doing any of the development in-house. And it's just put me in a position I'm pretty sour right now, and I'm trying not to be too negative, but again, I've got $1,600 sitting in a smoker that I can't use right now. And that does leave a bit of a bitter taste in your mouth whenever the manufacturer is basically saying, yeah, sorry, we don't have any parts and they're not going to be here for, 2.5, 3 months. And guess you're just stuck. And there's really nothing that they're willing to do to help me out, right? They won't even help me fix it myself. And so anyway, I'm making this way too long, more than it has to be, but I just can't recommend these things right now. Again, the mechanics don't seem bad as far as the way the smoker works, but the electronics just aren't any good, right? I mean, the probe's failing. They sent me a new controller and that controller doesn't work. They don't have parts to replace stuff. And I'm not the only one having this problem. There's other people online that have had problems with the Wi-Fi connectivity. There's people online that are having problems with the probes sometimes. They told me that they've got their developers or engineers or something working on tweaks for the temperature stability, which tells me that a lot of people are having problems with the temperature stability. So I don't know. I would just say I would hold off. Even though these things aren't brand new, they've been out for a year or two. I don't know that I would buy one right now. If I had it to do over again, I definitely would not buy one. I would go get maybe one of the old country smokers and I would just get a fireboard or something and actually just do it myself because their electronic control system just not any good, it doesn't seem like. So anyway, I'm going to stop. That's it. I'll go on forever if I keep complaining, but that's all I had to pop in and say is just, I know I posted that video and I wish maybe I had waited. I thought that everything was resolved because it was working okay. Premature on my part. So apologize for that, but I'll stop here. As always, I appreciate your time. Thanks.